Hello, Ray Phoenix here. Welcome to Let's Play Batman Returns for the SNES Part 4. We're finally at the final level of the game, Scene 7, the Penguin's Lair. We're going to the old Gotham City Zoo where the Penguin has his base of operations. We're fighting off his legions of clown troopers that are coming after Batman, and Batman can take on all these troops single-handedly because he's the Batman. He's just that great of a hero with his military grade suit, and he can and his ability to, like, punch down a bunch of enemies, destroy them like they're nothing. He's Batman. This level's by far one of the most epic levels in the entire game. I really love the musical score they did here. I think it's an actual, like, Danny Elfman score from the actual movie, and it translates very well into this SNES game. It just sounds perfect. Like, it sounds like it just came straight out of the movie. You never would have even guessed this was from an SNES game if you didn't know anything about SNES games. It just sounds really that good. The SNES actually was really good at producing great musical scores, and some of the best game music ever made was on the SNES, most notably in games like Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario World. People who talk about the SNES and its best games, they always talk about games like that. Most of them never talk about this one. This is by far one of the best games on the SNES. Like, this is just really, like, the music really does add a lot to it. It makes you get the sense that you're going against the final level of the game. It's the epic tension of going against the final boss, the final main villain of this game. Like, you still have to fight off all his legions of clowns that he has protecting him. And he's also guarded by these penguins that have rocket launchers strapped to their backs. That actually is very accurate to the movie, because the Penguin did have these Emperor penguins with rocket launchers strapped to their backs. They're gonna fire out a barrage of missiles that are gonna kill Batman or kill the people of Gotham City, and Batman's supposed to be the one that's gonna stop these penguins. Of course, Batman's not that cruel. He's not gonna fight penguins single-handedly. In fact, one of the only video games I know where you actually get to fight against penguins as enemies is Jumping Flash. And there are penguin enemies in Jumping Flash, because those people are kind of cruel. People like Jumping Flash are cruel, but these people aren't cruel. I feel like Batman's not supposed to be a cruel hero, but then again, in the movie he was kind of savage in the movie, considering the fact he fried a clown in that movie with the booster section of his Batmobile. So yeah, Batman was kind of a savage. Maybe Batman secretly is a savage all along. He doesn't want people to think that, but he kind of is. Especially in the last game, he was definitely a savage by throwing the Joker off the edge of the building. He's kind of a savage in this game by actually going against the Penguin and downright starting a fist fight. That's Batman's solution to everything. Just go up to them and just throw a fist fight at them. I mean, it seems to work pretty well for Batman. For most every game characters, it seems to work pretty well. Batman must be pretty strong if he can just downright pick up those big fat clowns and throw them like that, where he smashes, where he just slams them down. He pretty much has the most enemies in this game. Batman must be stronger than most enemies in this game. Batman must be one of the strongest people in his universe. I sometimes used to wonder if Superman existed in this universe, and Batman and Robin suggests he does, because earlier in that movie, Robin said, "Can I have a car? Chicks dig cars," and Batman's like, "This is why Superman works alone," implying that Superman does exist in this Burton Schumacher universe, but we never see him at all. I actually think it's for the better, actually. It's not good to rely on other heroes or rely on external sources in a series. I mean, like, people often praise the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies for that. There isn't really, I mean, Spider-Man's the only superhero that exists in that universe, but the fact that it could tell a really great story without having to rely on other superheroes that exist in that universe, and that's how any great superhero movie should be. I mean, it's good that they make them set in the same universe, the same interconnected universe, but at the same time, we shouldn't rely on other, like, contents or other characters or stuff from other things. It could be like its own self-contained story. That actually is and it could have some references too to other things in the universe. I mean, Kevin Smith did a lot of that when he made the View Askewverse movies, like when he made Chasing Amy and he referenced Clerks in it. He also put subtle references to Clerks and Mallrats, and how you guys be able to reference other movies like that, like on a very subtle level. I think that's actually quite genius. Actually, the View Askewverse is very underrated. It's a very underrated piece of cinematic history that a lot of people don't really talk about much when they talk about cinematic universes. And there's still these sword clowns there. These sword clowns are some of the most challenging enemies in the game, mostly because they're armed with a sword that has a pretty long range, and it does a lot of damage to Batman. It's almost as bad as a Catwoman scratching him. And Catwoman scratching Batman does a crap load of damage on him. It's all that cape swerve thing that you can do where you can just swerve his cape around and kill off a lot of enemies like that. I did earn a new life there from getting a lot of points. There's so much score again in this game. It's really easy to build up a big score in this game. This is on difficulty mania, and people say this game isn't very hard. Yeah, this game could have its challenging moments, but compared to a lot of other games, it's actually one of the easier games, especially because this is the SNES era of video gaming, when games were generally harder than they were in the PS1 era. A lot of people say SNES games are generally harder than PS1 games. Well, it's not so much they were harder, it's just that they started, well, it kind of is, because they started to make games easier in the PS1 era, which is why PS1 games were so much easier to beat, generally speaking. I have to think that's because these SNES games were a lot shorter than PS1 games, so they had to, put all the challenge, they had to concentrate all the challenge throughout the course of the game. But because PS1 games are longer, there's, no need to make it challenging. You can save your game. You're not supposed to play those games in one sitting, so it's more spread out, if that makes any sense. I think we're going after the first phase of the final boss, where the penguin rides in a duck. Yeah, out of all the things the penguin could possibly ride in, he rides in a duck. I think that was in the movie, though, so this game is actually being pretty accurate to the movie. The only way it can really harm this duck is to just keep throwing batarangs at it. Batman seems to have an infinite, limitless supply of batarangs. He just runs up to them and throws batarangs. There's penguins in there and they have rocket launchers on their back. Seems like one of the funniest things ever. People say these movies are supposed to be dark and serious. Well, a lot of the time, these movies still had their whimsical moments. That's kind of what gave them charm. Some people are under the false impression this is going to be a nice family-friendly movie. McDonald's seemed to think that when they promoted this movie to kids back in 1992. Did they not see the 1989 Batman movie? Those movies aren't for kids at all. They're actually quite dark. Yeah, they're not as dark as the Dark Knight movies. They're still pretty dang dark, considering how Batman was thought of at the time. A lot of people thought of Batman as being a whimsical character before those movies were made, especially if you watched the 60s Batman with Adam West in it. That was very that gave people the idea that Batman was a funny character. Heck, a lot of people that watched Batman back in the day had no idea he was a character that existed before them. A lot of people thought he was made up for that TV show. But from the perspective of people who don't really read comic books, I guess that's kind of a lot of people even I could count as one of those people. I mostly know about Batman from watching his movies and his TV shows, but I never really read the comics, which I read some of them more recently, but for the longest time, I haven't really been able to find a lot of the great comics anywhere, because it's hard to find a lot of that stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff doesn't always get, re-released, and sometimes it's hard to find a great comic book store and sell stuff, and local libraries don't always have the best stuff too. That's part of why archive.org likes to pride themselves in being an online library, because it makes it easy for people to, get content they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And I heard archive.org might be shutting down soon, supposedly. I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard rumors about that. I hope it doesn't get shut down. I use archive.org to back up a lot of my personal data that I like to save, a lot of my saved data, backing up to archive.org. It's a great way to back stuff up. I'm archiving it, right? That's the point of the website, right? It's to archive stuff so future generations can enjoy it. This is supposed to be the final boss of the game, and he's not even one of the hardest bosses in the game. It's actually one of the easier bosses of this game. That Catwoman boss should have been the final boss in this game, because Catwoman's a much more powerful boss than the Penguin. It's just Cape Swerving, and Cape Swerving takes out quite a bit of his health, especially when he's using his flying umbrella. His umbrella just flies. It's like a wire skeleton of an umbrella. Let's do that same trick I did the organ grinder and pretty much all the other bosses. Most enemies in this game and bosses in this game can easily be defeated by just diagonally intersecting them, picking them up, and smashing them down. So this is the end of the game now. The Penguin is dead, apparently. Apparently, Batman beat up the Penguin so hard that he died. I don't know how he really died. This game doesn't really specify how the Penguin died, but we know he's dead. Just goes to black and white, and he's ooh. At last, Batman has defeated the Penguin. Peace has returned until the next time the dark forces rise to harm the fair people of Gotham City. Yeah, Penguin is dead too, apparently, or Penguin died too. All these Batman villains seem like to get killed at the end. Batman has the thing, he always claims he never kills anyone, but despite that, a lot of his villains seem to end up dead afterwards, so is he trying to make villains scared of him or something like that? Look, it's the bat signal. No, Batman. It's gonna show the credits for all the people who worked on this game, all the people from Japan. I'm pretty sure this game was probably made in Japan because all these names are Japanese. All the best video games are made in Japan. It still plays the Danny Elfman Batman music, which is perfectly captured, perfectly mastered into this game. All the people have worked on it, and the music's pretty. Yes, overall, this game is a pretty impressive masterpiece of a game. This is by far the greatest Batman game ever made. A lot of people talk about the great Batman games, never talk about this one. This one's a certified classic, and it pretty much only came out on the SNES, considering the fact there were other Batman Returns games on our systems, and none of them were as good as this. There was also an NES version, which was kind of like, because it tried to be a watered-down version of this game, but it did a crappy job at that. You get killed once, you have to start at the beginning of the level, and levels are long in that game, filled with obstacles. You can get hit all the time in that game. So Batman Returns on the NES isn't really that good of a game. Quite a shame, actually. It could have been an awesome game otherwise, but it was ruined all because of that one stupid thing where you start back at the beginning of the level when you get killed. We're getting near the end of the credits where it says presented by Konami. Konami is proud to have made this game. If I made a game like this, I'd be very proud of it. I'm considering making a game like this, like a homebrew game like this based on Captain Fusion, Jason Mason and Captain Fusion video game. That would sound like a fun game to make. I have a Raspberry Pi, I have a whole dev kit, so I've got that Raspberry Pi for years now. I still haven't really made any games of it yet or made any software stuff of it yet. If you beat this game on Mania mode, you get an extra special prize at the end of this credits. It's going to show up in a few seconds. The screen says presented by Konami is going to fade away. It's going to fade into this. You are the true Dark Knight. That would have looked really impressive. It looks like a real photograph. It doesn't even look digitized. It actually looks like a real, live visual photograph being produced by your SNES. That was very impressive for 1993. On this SNES, you are the true Dark Knight. Yeah, I bet Christian Bale would disagree with that we're the true Dark Knight, or that Michael Keaton is the real Dark Knight. But the fans of these Michael Keaton Batman movies would definitely agree he was the true Dark Knight. There haven't been any great Batman movies since, is what some people would probably say. Yes, that pretty much concludes this game, this awesome masterpiece of a Batman game on the SNES. Part of the reason why I really wanted an SNES as a kid. Ray Phoenix signing out.